Testing. Now can everybody hear?
Yep.
All right, I'm going to say everything all over again for those that missed it and we stopped the recording because of the noise and so forth. So now we're going to start. So my name is Betsy Aguirre, and I think you know that by now. I owned a frame shop for 25 years, and I just recently gave it up because I messed up my hands, but it's a hard job. And I started getting some very strange things to frame that were huge, and I couldn't do them anymore. So I thought, I'll give that up. But anyway, so hanging shows for over the years. I wanted to show some people some quick things that might help them if they're framing their own work. This is going to be just a metal frame. Wood frames are a lot more difficult to frame for people who don't have the equipment. Also, I suggest when you're entering a show, put a metal frame in there because the wood frames get scratched up. You'll end up with them beat up when you get home, and they're harder to touch up. A lot of times with a metal frame, if I get it home, there's scratch on there, I just order another section and then it's good again. So you can, from some suppliers, and if you guys ever need that, feel free to call me, because if you have a perfectly good frame and one of the legs is bent or something, I might be able to get you a piece. So I'm still ordering from my supplier. So what I want to explain. So let's see. Start at the beginning. Okay, now here's a painting that I did really quick. I usually tape onto the board here, and I think it stays more solid than if you tape on the back. This could shift around and so forth, where if it's on here and anchored in the frame, it's going to stay. And this one, I tell you, I did not measure it right. I usually do, but anyway, I should have probably cropped it in a little more. When you are measuring, when you are getting ready to mat a painting, measure in about 1/4 inch and make sure to cut your window where you have at least 1/4 inch holding the painting in. So I mark them all on the back where you draw the line all the way across, and then when you cut it, if you cut your own frames, a lot of places you can order them already cut. But that's another thing. When you're measuring, make sure you give them the window size, and that is the size of the actual image it's going to show, the opening. And then you'll give them the outside dimensions, which is out here, which is your frame size. That's really confusing for some people. So just make sure when you measure your painting, you just come across here and make sure to give it 1/4 inch inside each side, at least. Maybe more if you want. So, especially if it's heavy, if it's a heavy painting, I'd give it a little bit more to hold it in. And there's different ways we're going to show you about how to mount a painting so you don't need to tape. I normally do use this tape here. And this is what it's called, Framer's Tape 2. You can get it on Amazon. I like it because it is acid-free. You can get this stuff too, but you know how you have to wet it and then wait for it to dry before you frame it. This is the good old linen tape. And there's some that are self-sticking, but I find they don't hold very long. This stuff is nylon. It'll hold anything. Now, this wasn't a good example for me to show you because I usually do and I didn't bring that. I usually put.
You need scissors?
Yeah, where's the scissors? I thought I brought some.
Where's your bag?
Do you need scissors? I can get some in the drawer.
Okay. Yeah, if you could.
Please.
Betsy, what's the backboard?
The backboard, that's a good question. This is just foam board. Don't use cardboard. Cardboard will have so much acid it'll soak right through and turn your painting brown after a while. You don't want that. So foam core is pretty cheap. You can get it at just about any craft supply place. I use 3/16. I think that's good and solid. You use about 1/8 of an inch, it could flex on you. And so, let's see. I want to show this in the thing. I cut 2 sections like this is the way I normally, I had surgery and I was on drugs when I did this, so this is my excuse. I didn't frame it right.
Do you want this one off?
Yeah, pull that one. My assistant. I couldn't do this without her.
Be the Vanna White.
Yeah.
You did sort of.
Yeah, I did sort of do that, but I put it because I was afraid. Okay, so ignore that piece. What I would do is put it behind there. Do you see that?
Yeah.
Like it. And then hold it down. Put this over the top like that. You're not touching the painting. That way when you peel it off like Stupid Me did just here, which I've never done before, you won't damage the painting. So you don't even have to do the bottom. And really, in a watercolor painting, you should just let it hang, and naturally for the expansion, so it doesn't buckle up. Now, when I'm going to ship it off, or somebody says they're going to ship it to a national show, I will put a couple little tabs down here, because they will turn that painting around and around and around, and it could slip. So, now what I normally do if it's a permanent installation, and this is not an arts, somebody's in an art group or something who's not going to reframe, I will put this tape, which I can show you, like this.
It's double-sided.
Double-sided stick tape. And this is, you probably all seen this, and this is a big professional gun, which messed up. It's not my day. So.
That would just hold the mat in place if you don't want to change this. Sometimes when we're entering shows, we want to be able to swap a painting out if we've been painting in the same size, and then you probably don't need to do this double stick tape on your mat, because then it's harder to take it all apart and put back together again. So skip that step. It's optional.
Now if you're shipping a painting and you have to put a mat on it in a national show, I would say, on any kind of show that you ship it off, I would glue it down. Because if you pull it out of the sleeve, and let's say on Western Fed, they're going to put it into another frame, it could fall apart and they'll drop the mat. So you don't want that to happen. I usually glue it down all the way around and then put the mat on, whoops, unless, like that, and then really hold it down. So now I'm going to show you real quick. And
Betsy,
yes.
So you're saying glue instead of the double stick tape? Or you're counting?
No, I'm sorry. I mean glue. The double stick tape is all I use.
Sorry.
Some people have in the past used, like Elmer's glue, and I wouldn't do that. It's too wet, and but people have done that. And by reframing stuff over the years, I've seen a lot. Yeah.
Where do you get double stick tape?
You can get it at any art supply place or craft store. Arizona Art carries it. Amazon has the same brand on there, which is 3M, which is a good one. They've got off brands, but this holds the best. But believe me, if you really stick that around and bond it down like this, and you put the glass on, it will hold really good.
Yes.
So, next. Huh?
It's acid-free too.
It is acid-free, yes. It's all I use. All I use in any of my frame jobs is acid-free paper, acid-free mat board. And the one thing you can tell, if you ever look at some of your old paintings and it's brown around the edges on the inside, that's not acid-free. I would reframe it, because what will happen, you pull it off and you see this nice brown ring around it. So it's not that much more money, and believe me, it's not. I know I used to sell frames, but believe it's only a few bucks, to get a good acid-free mat. So, I messed up my mat, but I'm going to take this apart. Okay, now, a lot of people ask me about the plastic glass. Let me get a rag here. First of all, clean off, even with the cover on it, clean that all off, get the dust off. First, put it down like this. Make sure it's going to fit. And then, then you start peeling this off. You want to do that? Like I said, I had surgery and I can't flip it. This will make sense in a minute. Okay. Now, what I do is try not to lift it up too much. Flip it over like this. Or if I had enough room here, I would say just carry it over, but don't lift it after you lay it down on here. Don't lift it up off of there because you will suck every piece of dust in the room.
Lint, yeah.
And every lint, every cat fur, everything inside of there.
God knows I
You want me to
don't
do it?
have.
Yeah, okay.
And those just come in standard sizes?
You can buy these actually like Air or Hobby Lobby's getting to be one of my favorite places if I can't do them, they'll cut mats. They have already cut mats, already cut plexi.
What's the product?
This is just a plexiglass and this one is not UV. Oh, yes. Somebody has a question. Yes.
Sorry, what's the thickness of that?
This one is 1/8, which
Okay.
1/8 of an inch. And I would say, don't get too thin. Some people go to Home Depot and so and get really thin, and then you put it in a metal frame and it'll flex and it'll pop right out.
So True Value Hardware is now cutting whatever sizes we need,
Good.
and it's already protected as well. And they had 2 thicknesses to choose from, but I
That's
thought
good.
3/8 is too thick.
Oh, yeah, 3, well, this is 1/8. Yeah.
1/8.
Yeah, so
You want me
1/8.
to put it aside while you start the frame?
Yes, Dan. So, I hear my husband's phone going off. I know that phone. It goes off from 6 a.m. to midnight. So, all right.
Talk about all the parts.
So this
Yes, I
is
will.
a 16 by 20 frame you want to
Yes, it's 16 by 20. All right, these are all the parts here. I lay them out like this in the right direction. Put that, wait a minute, got this backwards. All right, now, you'll see these angles in the kit. Now, one thing with, if you buy the kits at Hobby Lobby, these little kits will come with it in a bag. You have to buy some wire. I don't think they furnish the wire. So I wanted to show something because I've seen people do this wrong. They go, why are these 2 of these? I'll just use this. Well, that doesn't work, the one with the screws. This goes together, and when you screw this down, it expands and holds the piece in there. That's why, and I have seen them just fall out of the frame when I get them to hang them. So first you put this one in, and do the other one too. See, I taught her. I'm not making fun of her. She's a very good framer now. I'm just trying to be funny and I'm sounding like a snob. But
No,
okay, then,
this side doesn't want to go in.
okay, it's probably, now if you see.
Are we fighting each other? There, I got mine in.
Okay. I just didn't want to mess her up. Okay. All right, now hold it like this. Can you see it in the camera?
Yeah.
Okay. And you can tell
Do
I
I
am
need to help
shaking.
again?
No, I think I got it.
Okay.
All right, now I'll show you this one.
So the little one with the screws is on top of the flat one.
Correct.
It's
Yes.
expanding out. Okay.
Now, as you screw this in, it expands out and holds
Gotcha.
it in.
Right.
And people say, well, I have these other little pieces left and I don't know what they're for. So, well, that's what they're for. So I like to see people, go and try to do it themselves if they can. Because it is so expensive to do framing, so we all know. And the frames I'm ordering now have sometimes double that I'm ordering right now. And they're hard to get. Okay, now this is, now see what because I'm not strong enough. Can you do that? It's what 25 years of framing will do to your hands. Did I get this tight? Okay. Okay, yeah. All right, let's put that down. Put it just like that. This way. Sometimes I'll do it this way. This is not tight. And I think it's me. I think it's,
Okay, then we'll put it on the plexi.
no, I don't.
Betsy, is this an acceptable frame for juried shows?
Yes, it
that you're
is.
using?
Yes, it's a 1/4 of an inch.
The color, the size, everything?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, and pretty much I don't know what that's not going together.
Better?
No, did you get in there?
Maybe it's.
Darn.
I know, it's cyclical.
Are we taking it apart now?
Yeah, I think I'm gonna take it apart because I think it didn't get in there right.
So it's just a 1/4-inch frame?
No, well, this, yeah,
Yeah,
this
it's
one
about a
is,
1/4 inch. And also, the depth is, pay attention to the depth of it here.
Uh-huh.
And make sure that your plexiglass and your backboard and your foam core is all gonna fit in there. Because you'll get it all together and go, oh, I ordered a cheap frame and it's like that much too small. And you probably have all had that happen. I'm not sure if we got a bad part here. My luck, that's what it is. Because sometimes you will get them in a kit, pieces are missing, or
try
it's-
that.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay.
Okay. All right, I'm gonna do it this way. So, all right, now I just slip it in. And then you'll go, oh my God, it doesn't fit. Have that happen too. Okay, and then usually, what I do is I buy one of those cheap tarps at Home Depot and put it on my table. And keep it just for that. Don't put anything else and keep it lint-free. Because believe me, you know, it looks like I didn't get any lint in there, but I wouldn't put it on a raw surface like this normally. All right. This wasn't supposed to take this long, sorry. I hope you're learning something. Normally it takes me a nano to do this, but I've done as many as 50 of these a day and when I was framing. So that's when I was stronger. Okay. Just doesn't like me today. Turn it up.
Framing under pressure.
Yeah, framing under pressure is right. There is something wrong with that edge. It could be bent or something. No, it didn't get in there right. Plus my table's up here, not down here, so I can see this kind of stuff. Can you see me? I'm trying to see. See how both of them are in there? I've seen that too, where only one of them goes in, and you can feel it right away that it's not going together.
This is where it's supposed to be.
Yeah, that's good. Okay, and don't forget to screw it together. Have that righty tighty.
Yeah, when you said people had leftover parts, I was thinking about that IKEA furniture I put together, and there's always something left.
I bet that was important, yes.
Yeah, what was
Okay,
that
now
supposed to be used
I
for?
won't waste your time and do all of this, because that's not, because I didn't glue the whole mat down and everything,
That's
so.
all right. I think, do you all want to see how to hang it too?
Yeah.
You want to see the
Well, one
wire,
thing I wanna-
tying the wire? I think they want to see that.
Okay.
How to tie the wire and everything.
Well, maybe.
There's some questions, Betsy, John.
Okay, yeah.
How do you flatten your image before you start? If you have a piece of watercolor paper that's all wrinkly.
Good question.
Best technique for flattening it out.
One thing, the framer shouldn't do it, you should take it home and fix it if you get there and he says too wobbly to fix it. What I do, and I think a lot of people, some people iron it, that doesn't work for me, but I take a sponge and wet the back of it, and then put a piece of old plexi, and then a whole bunch of books on it, and leave it for a couple of days. And usually put it like on some surface that won't bleed or, you know, so forth. And I don't know if everybody else does that. Some people, like you said, you iron them.
Yeah.
Ironing never has worked for me, so.
I put down like newsprint, a couple
Yeah.
pieces of newsprint, and then I use a steam iron,
Yeah,
and then weight it down.
okay. Then weight it down, okay.
You use the steam function?
Okay, one thing, we talk about hanging in a show, and I know some shows say hang them right up to the top. One thing you should need to do, measure your painting,
The frame.
the frame. See?
There, I'm just helping.
Okay, so you got 16 inches, so take it about a third of the way down. If it seems too far, that's 5.5. Third of the way down from the top of the total measurement, and that's where you put this. See, there's blood, so that happens all the time too. It's one of those things that happen in framing. That's why all framers talk about how many Band-Aids we have.
Betsy, how did you get your hole in the metal? It's already in, oh, you're using the hole that's already there?
Show how it's a slot and how it slips in.
Okay, if you get the good set, which these are Nielsen or Clark, do the same. Some of them you will buy and they slide in from the top, then you can't move them, and then they give way after a while and they will start slipping.
Right, and maybe if we tip this and show it, maybe it shows how it goes in better.
Yes.
Tell me if, does that
Yeah.
show it?
Okay.
Yeah.
So it just slips in, and then you can move it up and down
Yeah.
to where you want it.
That's good.
What
See,
was this, 10.5 or something?
yeah, that was, no, it's, I was thinking about 5 now. So, yeah, or the other
I
way.
was going the other way.
It doesn't matter.
Question.
Okay. Okay,
Okay, you want me to tighten it?
yeah.
Another question.
Question?
Okay,
I've had some stuff framed, and it came out, and they had these side, no wire, side things you screw or nail into the wall, and the whole thing's supposed to slip in. Are you familiar with
yeah,
that?
yeah, and the wall buddies
I
are,
found it was impossible.
it's hard to do, but for very long pieces, they have these actually go into the frame. They're called wall buddies, but you can also put them on the wall and slip them in. That's hard, and it's a lot of damage on the wall. Where if you put there's these angles, and if you ask your framer, like wall buddies, if you got a real heavy, big piece, they are like an angle that sits up here. And then you can put it, you know, on the wire, and it seems to adjust a lot better. So, I don't know, just... here's another thing I wanted to show on the spring. See, that's what these are called. I see a lot of people put them in the wrong way. I may not put all of them in, but... Okay, a lot of people put them in like this, where this digs into the back. I am really bleeding.
To the foam core.
To the foam core.
Right.
And they rip the foam core and they can't get it out.
Right, and if you put the rounded side down,
Yeah.
it's like a little spring that way.
Yeah, then
And
they
it
pop it in.
you can put one side under and the other side just slides in.
Yeah, and then what's easy is when you pop it out and make sure you hold your hand like that. Where if you do it down, it'll rip into the board, it'll catch. So you just put it that way.
They do want to take off. When you're pulling them out, they want
Go
to
in
fly
there.
across the room. So that's
And
why
in your
Betsy
eye.
said put it. So that's super simple,
Okay. I'm not gonna put all those in, but,
but show how the wires.
okay. I'm just gonna put one wire in and sorry about the, I need a Band-Aid. I probably have one in my purse, but, okay. Come in from the back.
Candace has a question.
Is
Yes.
that the, just the wound wire, or is that the wound wire? with
Nylon
the plastic?
covered, it's covered
Yeah,
with the plastic.
We wrote it
Yeah.
down. It is coated. I would suggest you get a roll of the coated.
You don't hurt yourself as badly with this one when
Yeah.
you're.
Yeah, they don't stab you when you pull it off. When you cut it, you don't have those raw edges on the
Right.
end.
It's just a preference.
So what you do is start it
I got the big one.
on the bottom. There are videos out there to show this. And then pull it through and then start winding.
Did you go through twice?
I went through once, yes, twice, once and around, and then back around the bottom of the wire.
Okay, we got
And
you,
then
Band-Aid.
start, yay, I can quit ruining my fingers. That's just leaving my DNA on my artwork.
Betsy was here.
This is for your next ones.
For whatever happens next,
I should have one of
Thank
those in
you.
my car.
we got the whole kit. Thank you.
Okay, so that's the way you do it, and then bring it across. I'm not gonna finish it all.
No, but show them how to measure, because
Yes.
our rules say that it should hang 3 inches from the top of the frame. That's not this piece, that is where it's hanging this way.
Yes.
So
pull it
if you give
tight.
yourself some slack or not, it should be around 3 inches
3 inches from the top.
where it's gonna hang.
And we get
Does
people
that help?
that have it real sloppy and then we'll put it on the wall and it'll be up here. So pull it tight. I'd rather have it come into the show looking tight, being tight than being sloppy and hanging above the frame. So
What weight is the wire?
this one is, can hold up to 50 pounds and it's real easy to manage and so forth. So ask how many pounds it can hold because they come, I've got them where they can hold up to 100 pounds and they're real thick and hard to wind. So 20 to 50 pounds should be more than enough for most of what people are doing.
Right.
So now this didn't go together. I'm gonna have to fix that later. That's the part that cut me. You have to be careful with those.
So that's framing. Any other questions? Candace?
For instance, with the heavier piece, you can go ahead and put that thinner wire through double.
Yeah, you can do that, and I have done that, yeah. And if you think, okay, that's a little
There are
flimsy.
heavier gauge wires if you want to go out and buy another wire, but if you've got a big
I
spool,
have enough for my great-grandkids.
Yeah, you can double it up through there.
So I have a question about your mat.
Uh-huh.
It looks like the bottom is wider, the top is second, and then the sides are smaller?
No, these are all for, this is, oh, this might be on, I cut this.
I mean, is that okay for?
Oh, sure.
Showing?
And I think this one is, this is 4, and this is 4. I thought so. I tried to cut
So
it.
everything's 4?
4, yeah, but it doesn't, I think you can shift it a bit, which I do a lot of times, weight on the bottom. We don't have any rules against that.
Oh, we don't? Okay.
No.
I thought there was a rule that it had to be a minimum of 3 1/4.
minimum.
3 1/4.
But you
I
can
just-
go bigger.
Yeah, I
and
just
you
went
can
for-
You
weight
go
the
bigger,
bottom.
but a minimum of 3 1/4.
Yeah.
Yes. Must be showing once it's framed.
Yeah, once
Yes.
it's showing, and you gotta count, this is covering up a lot of
Right.
it.
And Betsy usually goes 4 inches.
Yeah, I would say at least 3 1/2. I just tell people to go 4. And
We just had a discussion at Western Federation about mats and framing and varnish. Be sure to read carefully the prospectus, whatever you are entering, because we say 3 1/4 inches showing. A different organization may have some other criteria, and you have to read it really carefully. That's one of the biggest things that comes up with all these different shows, is that you need to look at every point in the prospectus for their requirements, because they're all different.
Question.
And even
Every
though
show
we-
requires matting?
almost every show that you will see for watercolor does. Now, this next show, I did want to mention this. These are my weights I use to hold.
Do you want to show this too?
Yeah, once we get those boards out, we'll
Okay.
show.
What are the weights?
Oh, these, I don't know if anybody can get these, but my sister sewed some of these up too with this leather, and that holds your painting solid while you're putting on the mat.
When you're
and-
taping it.
Yeah, when you're taping it.
When you're first
and-
deciding where it goes,
Yeah.
if you can hold your painting in place with a little weight, it helps when you're taping it.
Some things, I'm sorry, I missed. I didn't use them or didn't show, so, yeah. So these are, you can make these yourself. Put some sand in a bag and a canvas bag or
Yeah.
something. But sand might be messy. And let's see, what else
We're
we're gonna...
talking about the next show requirements.
Yes, I'm sorry. The next show, which is going to be at the Phoenix University Club. I don't know if any of you have been there. Some of you showed there the last time. It's a very small venue and very short little walls and small, narrow walls. So what we're going to do on this next show is, I want everything framed, but it can be, like she did there. She could pop those right into a frame without a mat, and we will allow that. You can have canvas boards, but they have to be framed and they can't be too deep. As far as there's too many narrow hallways that people could knock it down. So just read the prospectus really carefully. We're still working on that, what we can allow. I don't want to see any big wrap canvases coming in not framed. Just think of the size of the place. You're more likely to get in if it's small. not too small, we don't want 8 by 10s or so forth, people could walk off with those, so, and we don't want to put a lot of nail holes in that place, so.
So what's the smallest size that you'll accept?
I think 9 by 12.
9 by 12?
9 by 12 is,
It used to
9 by
be-
12
It
paint.
used to be, the current criteria is 10 by 10, or 100 inches.
Yeah, 100 inch, yeah, and so I
9 by
was
12
gonna
is
keep
a little
that.
bigger.
Yeah, so we could, I'm not gonna measure out, but, you know, because people will use a, you know, same kind of frame, we're not a big ornate frame or so forth, but since we're gonna be doing varnishing and trying to get away from some plexiglass.
When is this going to be?
Oh, it's gonna be in October. So at the end of the summer, around August, I'm gonna try and get it out as soon as I can. So everybody look in your
You'll see a
emails,
prospectus come out.
and we will have it in the newsletter, and we'll have it, you know, Myra will send out a mass email.
So you're
with it.
saying no mat is okay for that?
No mat's gonna be okay for that? So I'm sure a lot of you are going, oh boy, I got some stuff on my wall. So that's great, just, you know, so I think, you know, I'm,
She won't still
Put-
take my 5 by 7s.
do what?
I said, yeah, but you still won't take my 5 by 7s.
I think that may be just too small, unless it's matted, then maybe, you know.
No,
A clarification again.
Yes.
So you're saying no mat, but it still needs to be protected. If it's watercolor, it needs to be varnished.
Yes.
And that's what you're going to be talking about? Okay.
Yeah, and that'll say that in the
Or behind
prospectus.
plexiglass or glass?
Correct.
Behind plexiglass, and if, it can be glass if it's little, under 16 by 20, you can probably use glass, I think. Maybe 16 by 20. I think, what are the rules? I forgot what they say. Under 16 by 20, you can use glass or something. I think CWA is doing that now too, aren't they?
I don't know, no.
Okay,
If it's small enough, you can still use glass.
okay.
I don't
Just
know.
gonna put some of these things so you
We
can
just
see it
don't, we
this
had
way.
one come into the show and it just weighed a ton, so,
I'm gonna use your tape to hold some up.
okay. Uh-huh.
Just to go back to your frame, did you say Nielsen or Clark brand kits are the good ones?
I think so, and yeah, those are the
You
kinds.
can get those at Hobby Lobby?
You can get those about anywhere,
Okay.
yeah. And those are also the best, I think, more solid frames too.
Okay.
That's all I'll order. I mean, when I see some of these companies and you don't recognize the name, they'll come in and they're super thin, or the coating will come off right away.
Or the miters are off.
The miters are off, they'll come in all messed up, so, yeah. Okay, any more questions? Now we're turning to,
We're rolling into varnishing. Not that either one of us is an expert yet, but we took a class and we've been experimenting ourselves at home to try to figure out this varnishing so that we can hang these artworks without the plexi. The plexi's gotten so expensive. So a couple of things, I don't know if I'm off, am I off the page? So a couple of things, you can just paint on your 140 pound, 300 pound paper and decide to mount that artwork onto a board and then varnish it. And I've done that on some of these. Am I not loud enough? I feel like I'm so loud.
You're fine.
Okay. Stick it in my pocket. Okay, so a couple of things. We can mount paper onto different types of board. This is hardboard that I got at Home Depot, and it came in a 2 by 4 foot piece that I then had cut to different sizes so that I could glue paper, and this was artwork already done, and I used this light molding paste on the back of my artwork as well as on the surface of the hardboard, and let those two separate things dry. And then I used the same light molding paste again and put the two together.
What's the thickness?
This is maybe 1/8.
Did you say it was just hardboard
It's called hardboard.
and it's acid free?
Now, this one is not acid-free. The MDF is another one. This is probably this is what I bought to do a project on. Raymar is a local company that sells these. They are in Phoenix. They are these aluminum boards that already have Fabriano Artistico paper glued to them. And you do your artwork right on it. And it comes in different sizes, and I bought a 2-pack. Do you want to grab that one with the oranges? So I experimented, but a 2-pack of this, and what are these? Oh, 11 by 14. I think it was close to $50. So this is, yeah, and I wanted to experiment, so I paid for it. And you can also apparently buy from them these boards without the paper. I'm not sure how much less expensive they are. We have to go to their website and look. But you can adhere your paper to their boards. But this is so rigid, this isn't gonna bend. This is like aluminum with a resin, aluminum again, and then they've got the paper on it. So you guys are welcome to come up and look at this before you leave.
Is that similar to like Crescent watercolor board?
So no, well, some people are using watercolor board to then adhere their, so some things can bend a little.
But the watercolor board has watercolor, it's watercolor. Watercolor.
Yeah.
Yes, yes,
that.
but
Yeah.
that, yes. So yes, you can just varnish over your artwork when you've done that.
Okay.
What I've noticed about the watercolor board is that it's not actually paper. It's like a clay that you're painting on. So it's just different. If you look at if you look at what the actual board is, the water, yes, Pam?
Marion, is that acrylic or watercolor paint that you,
This is watercolor.
and it didn't move?
I had it really wet.
Okay.
So it really acted like paper. The only difference was I had no buckling.
Wow.
As wet as it got, it stayed flat. So that was interesting. And you can do your own paper onto a board and then paint on it, and it should stay put.
But this, if you're painting wet on wet, it still doesn't.
It did not buckle.
That's pretty amazing.
It was
Do you have a
really
question?
wet to get this black background.
That might be worth the money right there.
Yeah.
Does
So
it come in any bigger sizes?
it does. It does. I didn't fork over more. I just wanted to try on a 11 by
Tanya
14.
has a question.
Again, we have to be careful with watercolor board. If the criteria says paper,
Yes.
because that's not the same, so.
Yeah, watercolor board isn't paper,
But this is paper.
but this is paper.
Now, I've used the Crescent board, and it's watercolor board, and that is paper. It's actually a board, and it's paper, you know.
How do you adhere it to the board?
Okay, so this was already done because it was from this company, this one. This one, I had my sheet of paper, and I used my light molding paste, and this is just a goo. If you don't already, guess I didn't open it that hard. Well, anyway, I brought the new one. I have an open one at home. So the light molding paste, just scoop some out, and you're just gonna basically cover the entire board, and you're gonna do the same thing with the back of your painting, and we let those completely dry. And it dries pretty fast, like a half an hour for both of those surfaces to completely dry.
You're only using a very
A thin layer. A very thin layer. And so yes, you could see it, and it was tacky to touch, but it was a thin layer, half an hour to dry, and then go back again with the same product, and then stick the two together, and then you're gonna use weights. So I used a board and books, and they needed to completely dry flat overnight.
What's wrong with spray glue?
I don't know that there is anything wrong with spray glue. It might hold just fine.
I'm not sure if
I
it's-
haven't experimented with it, so I can't tell you that, but you're welcome to experiment and report back.
They may release some sort of toxins and acids that could damage the paper. I'm thinking.
So this board from Home Depot, I was trying to find something less expensive. This is not acid-free. So by doing more coats of this, you're gonna have less of that problem of acid coming through. So a couple more coats is just, it's protection. It's protection between your art and the board that is not acid-free in this case.
You have a question, Ruth?
Well, yeah, and I use Yes Paste
Uh-huh,
to mount my papers on board.
yeah, that works.
And that's like a Mod Podge or something.
But it's
It's
yellow.
it's different.
It can yellow, yeah.
Yes glue. Yes
No,
glue,
it's-
Yes paste.
It's Yes Paste.
Okay.
It's a thick paste. It's not at all
Archival.
Mod Podge.
Okay, it is archival, good.
It's archival and so forth and so on.
And that'll stick it, so Yes Paste then might be an option.
And
So,
heavy gel as well.
heavy gel. So after this dried overnight, it was nice and flat. It still bowed just a little bit. So, I mean, I can probably stick it under books again, and I don't think it'll really show once this is framed, but it did bow just a little bit, and this isn't a big one. If I had tried to use this board with a bigger painting, I think the bow would be more pronounced. So maybe not this, maybe MDF, maybe I need to go thicker, but I'm experimenting, trying to figure out what surface would be the best one.
MDF board is pretty heavy.
And it's heavy and it's
As you get
thick.
bigger, it's heavy.
I can't find it quarter,
Yeah.
so then this product
Tons
that is
better.
quite expensive starts looking better every time because it's already done for you, so that's awfully nice.
Yes, Tanya.
So, and this is for preparing for varnish.
Preparing for varnish.
So the Western Federation folks in New Mexico were gluing it to foam core, archival foam core.
And that'll probably bow too.
That will bow.
Everything big
Wow.
was bowing.
It'll bow.
They just said, and it got too heavy because they're requiring the mat, so it was pulling apart, and they finally just put it behind plexi. So
Right.
varnishing large paintings might not be the way to go.
Well, and
The
I
small
think
ones.
you need to keep it thin because then Betsy was nice enough to keep these. This is more of the foam core. So if you had to do it with a mat, you'd have your foam core underneath.
Here, I'll show you. Okay. There's two ways. We're sort of,
Well, let me move some of this over so you can show that.
this is real quick here. This is a quick way if you wanted to mount on this. Have you guys ever seen this? It's foam core, but it's already self-adhesive right here. So what I did is I cut this out right here to fit the painting. I weighted it down with a bunch of books. And then I left this part on because what I'll do is pull this off, stick the mat right on it. Now you'll never get that mat off of there.
Right, so she kept
if
it
you're-
on while she varnished.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
So it
varnished.
She
that's-
varnished this with,
I spray varnish.
so it's got a protection, her layers here, and then she varnished.
So
We
you
make
did
a-
that for shows where we're requiring matting on a varnished
Yeah,
piece?
I
Yes.
like the mat, I like the space and that, you know, it's part of the framer in me. I like the space between the painting and the frame.
And if I
And
can
I
I
like
put
that-
this on top?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so
See
this
it?
was an idea
Oh.
that Betsy and I stopped at her house this week, and we were talking about how to build it up in order to take a mat. And that was gonna be these would have to be cut to the exact size of the mat.
You do
But-
what they call a pinwheel around it.
So this one would go here,
Yeah.
and then the mat can sit, and it
See-
will end up being flush.
Let's say this is the size of the mat. You would cut these foam core pieces to fit the mat. Then when you put it in here, you know, well, if that was size, see, it would sit flush against there. Because a lot of people are asking me, how do you frame a board? How do you put a mat on it? And that,
You need to
it's a
build
little
up
more
the thickness
work.
around the board. Unless
Yeah.
it's a small one that you can sort of tape to the back of a mat.
Yeah,
Because
and
that's a possibility.
I did that on one of mine.
The small one, it's over there, next to Greg.
Oh.
But so this is
Yeah, I
still,
just taped it back there. That's,
there's a bit of a learning curve. We're at the very beginning of getting away from some plexi. That doesn't mean we're gonna get away from plexi altogether, but to have the option to be able to get into these shows with varnish. And then there are different finishes for the varnish. So the class that we took used this gloss archival varnish, which has UVLs in it. And I put up that cardboard there because that's kind of how I spray varnish at home. I will put my artwork on the easel with the cardboard behind it, bigger than my artwork, so that when I'm spraying, I begin spray off the
Upright.
artwork.
Upright.
Upright,
Not on the ground.
upright on an easel, and then I'll pass by it completely and then come back. Because you don't want that stop-start to happen on your artwork. So your start-stop is happening off the artwork on the cardboard. And I was lucky enough, we've had so much wind. But if you're early in the morning, you might be able to beat the wind.
What's
Yes.
wrong with spraying horizontal?
You can't, well,
Well, you
I
might
think
get-
you get
it might
drops. You
sit
can
on
get,
it.
you
Yeah.
can, you can get
It'll
those
splatter.
spitting drops that happen. So if you do it upright, it's just a better mist.
It'll
Yes.
drip off of it.
When
Pardon?
it's upright, don't you get drips?
Yes, upright, or you might get, I didn't get any drips.
The
I didn't
reason
get it.
is,
To keep
when
it far enough away.
Yeah,
you're far enough away and you do one coat, wait, rotate it, spray it again. If you keep spraying it, it's gonna start running drips down there.
right. I mean, this is the
Believe me,
this is
no.
the harmful stuff that we're supposed to wear a mask and keep a ventilated area, and so caution, caution for all those things. But I was outside and I used that cardboard so that I could do the bypass motion and return without having that happen on the artwork. So this one has more steps. The one I did here, at this point, only has this step on there. And I plan
better all the time.
I plan to do more, but it's funny because it kind of gets a tooth to it from the spray. The spray leaves a little bit of a gritty kind of feeling on the surface. And one idea I had, and I will try it the next time, is to take like a microfiber cloth, because you'll do a pass, and I'll say, keep your work the right direction. You'll go back and forth, and you gotta let that dry for 30 minutes, and then you're gonna do it again, 30 minutes in between every time. But between those passes and after the 30 minutes have passed, I'm thinking, if I scrub this a little bit with a microfiber cloth, I might be able to get a little bit of that tooth off. It doesn't show, but you feel it. It almost feels like sandpaper.
Yeah, this one too.
It's kind of, it's a little weird how the spray varnish leaves this kind of gritty feeling on it, and I'm wondering if I rub it with microfiber, if I'm gonna get some of that tooth off before I spray again, yes?
Is there any shift of color, like once you spray?
It brings out the color.
This
So
was dull.
the jewel tones really show now. That might have been very dull before the spray varnish happened.
Yeah,
I've used
it was
wax
this one.
medium before.
Yeah,
That also works fine.
yeah.
What is it?
Wax. You
Wax.
brought some wax too.
I did.
That's an
bring this.
option
I was
too.
gonna discuss
Same
this.
old one.
Yeah, yeah. And then you wouldn't have to do the spray at all. You could go directly to wax on top of your artwork. This one though, I did do,
Tolerance is good for the shows.
yes?
Yeah, it's any kind of varnish really, that you,
Seal it, yeah.
this
Seal
is
it.
really easy.
And it
So-
has a smoother surface.
So what you do on this, I learned, and I wanted to explain it real quick
Yeah.
before I forget, is, because I made a mistake and started buffing too soon. This is like just very easy, I'll do that.
Under the camera.
Oh, I'm sorry.
What's it
Here you go. It's
Dorland's wax maybe.
Dorland's wax.
Cold wax.
Yes, and it's cold wax, you don't heat it up or anything. So what you would do, and I won't do it on mine, but you would smear it all over your painting. Let's do it over here so they can see on the camera. How about, I can use yours as an example.
Sure.
Just like that, I'm not gonna touch it, but go all the way around several times with this wax. Just keep dipping and dipping until you get it totally covered. Then let it dry, at least a couple of days. And what I was telling John Irwin when he asked about it earlier, if you start buffing it, I use an old t-shirt, you know, that's been washed and cut up. If you start buffing it, there's any sort of friction, it's not dry. And then, so once you feel that, you might get a little friction, but if you start seeing it's not buffing, it's starting to smear, stop and let it dry some more. Believe me, I ruined the whole painting doing that. So just keep buffing it, and you'll see it starts shining beautifully. And that's an easy way to do it, so.
How many coats did you use? Because I use 3 when I do the door.
I think I used 2 and
Okay.
on the smaller piece, but
Yeah.
the big piece I saw, I messed it up and I stopped, so.
Question,
Yeah.
on the spray, you said spray, turn around, spray, turn around, spray. How many times are you gonna do that?
I did it from every angle. So I did 4 sides,
Oh, 4 sprays.
4 sprays, 4 passes of spray varnish. And then I did let this dry, and I did more coats on this one. The other 2 that I brought in, I didn't experiment anymore. I was done after this, but not to say I'm done,
How long
because I
does it
will
take
do
to
more.
dry?
This one? So this is really the 30 minutes in between, but I didn't want to put another coat of something on until the next day. I wanted that to really kind of cure, I suppose. Is that the right name for it? Let it harden up before I did any more to it.
Was this satin?
So I used the gloss
Okay.
for the spray varnish, and then the next day, this is an option. We had taken this online varnishing workshop from Matthew Bird, and he suggested isolation coat. This is not necessary. This is I don't know. I guess he believes it's going to be so archival that someday someone might want to refinish the surface of this painting. Okay, so I bought
Well, if
it.
you mess up the
Let's
top
try
Yeah,
it.
but
Or
he's
if,
selling for thousands
or
of
if
dollars.
you,
so-
or if you mess up your top coat and you had this underneath, you'd be able to remove whatever that yucky varnish was. If, I don't know, a bug dried in it, something happened and it wasn't pretty, you could get back to this. So the isolation coat is supposed to be, and it's just a thin milky layer that you paint on, and I just used a brush to paint that on and let that dry. And it is supposed to be a barrier that then when you put other things on top, that you could get back to that barrier
So that's before the varnish.
before the varnish.
Question, everything you're talking about, you're mounting to a board. Do you have to mount your watercolor?
It needs to
a
be
board?
mounted to something rigid, or it'll start buckling. As soon as you try to do a varnish or anything on it, it will
Okay,
start.
now I've taken watercolor paper and done just the varnish on it, doesn't buckle. And then I
Okay.
just mounted it to,
If it's
mat
flat,
and everything, and
if you
it's flat.
if you
so-
can keep it flat, then it worked.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then
That's
it worked.
The whole idea is just to make sure it stays flat.
Stays flat
Okay,
because
thank you.
a lot of times it'll.
That's the
fold.
whole idea.
Gotcha.
Right, so if you've done this optional coat, then you can go on to the next one. If you've not done the optional coat, you can also go on to the next coat.
Then you put on that.
So we have a lot, so you can finish it all different ways. And that is what Betsy has experimented with behind me. Matte, satin gloss on some different things. I bought the satin varnish. I didn't want a true gloss. She's got a true gloss down here. And what I did notice, and this one was again painted on, I used a tiny bit of water with my mixture, and it says not to on the directions, but I did anyway. Rule breaker. I just didn't want streaks, so I was afraid if it's a little bit thick, I didn't want streaks on here. So I put a little bit of water in to thin it down, and I've done one coat of the satin on here, and it did get a little bit less shiny, and I think it probably needs a second coat of the satin to make me happy for this one. But Betsy intentionally wanted
The
to
shape.
keep it glossy on this one. So
I tried everything.
it's just what finish do you prefer? How do you want to finish your artwork in the end?
Yeah, because I spray gloss.
To the camera.
Yeah, I'll pass that around, or you can come up and see it. The interesting thing about this is that this was, and these are horrible paintings, that's why I did this on it. This is a thick 300-pound watercolor paper. You can hardly tell the difference between the matte, satin, and gloss. If you hold it to the side, you might see a little bit on the gloss, and I did 2 or 3 coats. You know, I block
The
these
gloss
off.
is definitely glossier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But this is Yupo paper. And you really see a difference. There's the matte, and then the satin. So this is very matty, but it's also
Does
gritty.
it show flat or do we need to tilt it a little bit?
You tilt it a little there.
Okay, just tilt it a little.
Okay.
Yeah, you really
Yeah.
tell the gloss,
Yeah.
turn it the other way.
Turn it
There. As
like
you
that.
move.
Yeah. But I was really disappointed on the watercolor paper. I didn't get more gloss out of that. So what I did on these rocks,
Yeah.
I used the varnish, but I used the gloss varnish. And this I found online. These are cool if you want to put a varnish on. They are called makeup sponges. You can get like 6 of them for $8 on Amazon. And you pour a little bit of this on. I actually put it in here, squirt it on, and then spread, of course, I have the mat in the way, but spread it all the way out to the side, and I turned it and did several different directions, and because this is self-leveling, I didn't get streaks, but this is cool. You wash it right off. There's no brush
Hold it up
strokes.
under the camera.
Oh, I'm sorry. The makeup brush, there's it's
like
a
a
makeup
silicone
silicone sponge.
Silicone.
Yeah.
And so you just brush it back and forth and, not brush, but use this.
Or
You can
you can
even
use a
use it
paintbrush.
flat. You can use it flat like this and go right back and forth.
Did you try it on your face, Betsy?
No,
A little varnish.
I just bought some more, so I might this time, so.
Yeah.
So that's a different varnish than what you sprayed on.
Can you
Yes.
hold that up so we can see the brand and the name and everything? of
This
that?
one, this is a Liquitex satin varnish.
It's called a varnish.
Yes.
Yeah, varnish. And that would be your final
you
coat. But I put,
Yes.
So how does that compare to the cold wax as far as the satin look?
We didn't do that, so I can't
Didn't
hold
have
that
time.
side by side for you. But maybe we can bring that next time.
also,
don't know.
one thing I did on here after I put this on, I used this to get any bubbles out. So, if you've ever painted on and then you see these bubbles, you put the gas real fast, and you will see them pop, 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 pop.
Okay. I don't have that toy at home, so I didn't do that. One thing I didn't mention is I have a brayer out, and that is for the moment that I glued the two together. And I mean, I just barely rubbed it with a brayer to make sure there wasn't any bubbles in there.
I think with the board, because, it's composite type board, I'm wondering if you spray the back of it with just water, because with illustration board, when back in my younger years,
Yeah.
when you use that, if you just put something on the back, it would straighten it out. So
It'll just take that little bow out? Well,
Yeah.
I'll do that when I get
Yeah.
home, for
Just,
sure.
try it a couple times.
And because this is a small one, I thought, ooh, I don't think I'd want to do this bigger.
Yeah.
Because if it's already bowing with this size, I don't know that I want to.
Or maybe just even the coating, would be enough to pull it.
I love
Right.
illustration board. I love drawing on it.
So Betsy was nice enough to type up a handout that has a lot of this information in case you weren't all taking notes. So it has
I don't know if
the
that'll help.
supplies that she used for framing, as well as the supplies and the steps that we did for varnishing. And I really feel like we're still in an experimental stage with this as a group. So if you all find something that's great, maybe let our newsletter person know about it. And, she's always looking for stuff to put in the newsletter. We're all experimenting and we'll figure out what works, I hope.
And doesn't work.
And what doesn't work. That would be a good article too, right there.
We put a disclaimer, I did, on the top that if you screw up your painting, it's not our fault.
Right, our phone numbers are not attached.
So was varnishing allowed in this last jury exhibit?
In Fountain Hills? I think they did, yes.
Did they?
did.
How did that go? Was there any?
Were there just one or two?
Carol Hillsbury's piece was varnished.
And
wasn't it?
Betsy, you had a piece that was varnished in the Fountain Hills
Yeah,
show.
there was the Umbrella Man.
And it was
was
matted,
close.
mats were required.
Yeah.
So I think there were just the two.
Betsy, did you use one of those boards you did there?
On mine?
Yes.
On the varnish, did you do with the adhesive?
No, actually, let's see, what did I do? I forgot. It was 300-pound paper, and then I mounted it on.
I think he thinks you put it into the show.
She had one in the show.
I had one with the
found it.
umbrella, the guy with the umbrella. I wanted it to look like it was wet and rainy, so I put a gloss on it. I wish I wouldn't have put the plexiglass on it though, because it was hard to see with a double gloss. But, and I'm trying to remember what board I used. Wasn't that long ago, but I slept since then, so I forgot.
Betsy, I have a question about on your cabbage thing.
Cabbage, yes.
I'm
Mary.
surprised that you didn't use more of a sealant, like he didn't recommend GAC 100 or anything over that board to
On the
seal?
board itself?
Yeah,
You mean to protect it before?
Well,
yeah, to seal the board before you put the painting.
I
to it.
have some of that, and I didn't know what it was for.
That's
I don't
what
even have
it's
a bottle
for,
of it.
it's, because Mary, that's what Mary does.
okay.
You seal the board with that so that none of the
Acid.
acid or
get
chemicals
through.
come into the
Oh, I
painting.
have-
Well, these were my experiments.
Oh,
So
okay.
I wasn't,
Did he, you said?
no, he was,
He was
did
doing
the
the varnish.
aluminum only.
I think that board has to be sealed
I
before
think
you
that-
put something.
but
like
else.
his name is attached to it or something.
GAC 100 is what you use to seal that board.
Okay,
Sure.
Good.
And it should
Good, I have
be
more
on-
pieces.
It
Make
should
it
be
known.
on the Liquitex website.
Okay, it's a
Okay.
Liquitex product.
Yeah.
GAC.
Here, I have a bottle of it, and I forgot why I bought it.
Carol, do you have to put it on both the front and the back of the
Yeah.
board?
I don't know, but I'm
Right.
almost positive you have to put it on the front.
On the,
Yeah.
well, on
Okay.
the side that you would
The
put
bluing side.
yeah.
I will put a link in the newsletter. There's yet a different way to do it
Okay.
and New Mexico has it on their website, I think.
Okay.
So I'll find out. But I also have it in the minutes. And they're actually using golden products and they're brushing on, so they're doing a spray varnish, then brushing on varnish 2 to 3 coats in different directions, letting it dry between. And then the last is a spray fixative varnish, I'm sorry, don't quote me on this, that takes the brush marks off of it.
And I think the
But they were
GAC
doing it with
100 might
matte,
be
they
golden.
did not want glossy.
Rather than
Yeah, I
Liquitex.
have it.
The whole idea for, from their viewpoint was galleries aren't accepting watercolors because of the shine on the paintings from plexi and glass. And if you want to get into a gallery, using the matte finish would perhaps be more appealing to gallery owners. All of this is just different people's opinions, but anyway, I think they have a step-by-step on their website, and I will put a link.
Did they use matte board and varnish that also?
Yes.
and it
Yes, they
not
did.
yellow?
Yes, they did.
Separately, and then mount it.
Some people don't even.
And the
use
reason
matte
for
board.
that is that all the, you have 120 paintings that get shipped to them to frame. So they're framing all in the same frame, cohesive, easier to do. And then they wanted mats on all of them as well. So even though they were not,
Under the plexi anymore.
didn't need it, they
Yeah.
were making them put the mat on there.
Yeah.
And when it was too big and it was gapping, the artist agreed to just put plexi instead of.
What do you mean it was gapping?
A large varnished piece that also had a varnished mat was gapping, kind of buckling.
Oh.
And so, and it was so big and heavy that they were having trouble getting it to stay. So they finally just put it behind plexi, which there were only 4 that were varnished.
Well, yeah, a lot of these are golden products, and that was again because I took Matthew Bird's workshop
paid by Golden.
on, yeah, and he gets paid, I'm sure, by Golden and by this Raymar company that does these.
I get
So But these are products that he swore by, and he is selling his paintings for thousands of dollars, and he does want them to be archival. So I think they're good products, and it does work, but how many coats you're going to end up doing, I mean, he did a lot more. I think he did at least 6 passes with this, and 2 of that, and I mean, it was a lot. It was a lot. But I like the whole GAC idea. That's very good for
I think that's golden.
well,
It
The
is
liquid
golden.
text,
I
yeah.
got it.
okay, for, you know, just for another option, for something that's not as pricey as and Raymar is the name of the company that makes these painting panels.
Would you say way more?
R-A-Y-M-A-R, Raymar.
They have a few of them at Arizona Art Supply.
Do they?
Oh, they do?
Yeah.
So I'd like to try that after I see the
Yes.
surface.
Raymar also does oil painting panels,
Yes.
pastel panels,
Yes.
plain wood. They have a variety of things. I've been using Raymar for a number of years.
Yes.
Not with this metal, but the other ones are not metal, the ones I'm familiar with.
Yeah, I'm not sure that the art supply store has these yet,
Yeah.
but these were sold in a pack of 2.
Betsy,
Well, you know, they use a canvas if they're doing oil. Yeah. Well, I wasn't familiar with the watercolor aspect of Raymar
What
because I
paper?
did pastel for a while.
It's
paper do you
Fabriano Artistico
Fabriano,
paper,
okay.
and I think you can choose hot press, cold press.
Okay.
Yeah, Carol.
question about the cold wax. If you're using cold wax, does that buckle the paper like the spraying?
I don't think, I
So
didn't
if
have
you
that.
use the cold wax
No,
on
they've used it a
watercolor
lot.
paper, you wouldn't have to mount it to a board, would you?
Okay.
You could just attach it to your phone cord.
Carol?
I would think so.
That's all I did on mine.
Carol, I did a number of the 6x6s for the gratitude thing, and I took my paintings, cut them 6x6, and I mounted them on a canvas board, on the boards they want us to use, with the Yes paste. I glued them on first, and then I used the Dorland's wax medium, and I did 3 applications, letting it dry and buffing it between.
Okay, but that wasn't my question.
Yeah.
My question was to enter a show, and you're talking about buckling. If we take 300-pound watercolor paper and you wax it, does it need it, because it's waxed, does it need to be mounted on a board?
They're saying
Or it can
no.
just be,
It shouldn't buckle.
it should, you
buckle
can do it
like
just
not
like you would
webbed.
a regular watercolor. I mean, attach it with the tabs to the phone book.
I did mine on that Tom Herbert paper, you know, and I waxed it. It didn't.
Yeah, that's what I
Didn't
would,
buckle
yeah,
at
so you
all.
wouldn't have to go to all this thing of building it up and everything.
It didn't look as pretty as
But
that.
if it's just paper, you still want a mat.
Right, but you
To hold
don't
it in
have to,
place.
you don't have to adhere to a board.
But you would, under the rules right now, have to varnish your mat.
Okay, but that doesn't have to be attached to a board.
Nope.
So you could wax it
Yes,
and spray your board.
yes,
And then you wouldn't have to deal with all this mounting stuff.
yes.
Just use
Correct.
your watercolor paper as you normally do inside your mats.
Correct.
And I may have you double check the prospectus too, because I'm going to be sure I cover all these
Okay.
things that people are using.
And all this is being done to make it easier for us?
Cheaper.
So you don't need plexiglass. Plexiglass,
I'm going to question whether or not it's cheaper by the time you buy
I
these
agree,
boards.
that, this
Well,
one's really
This-
expensive. But it looks
This route
beautiful.
may not be.
No, I wouldn't say that route
Um,
was cheaper.
Home
Plexiglass
Depot
not
route
that
might be.
expensive.
But the
It-
plaques,
it is,
how
but it
many
looks
have
so good.
replaced
I know, but it's
plaques?
only
Well, and people were,
$14,
and there was a shortage of plexi after COVID. So it was very hard for
That's what
people to
I'm
find the plexi at all and to get something hung in time for a show.
I paid $100 for a 32 by 40 sheet
Of-
of
Mine is-
plexi lately,
I
but it's a
ordered-
good thick,
I ordered it from American Frame.
yeah, I don't know when if you got it lately, because it's a petroleum product, it's going up like
Because I
gas.
checked, because I know you said that.
Uh-huh.
And I went and checked online, and that's not what their prices were.
Yes,
So
Pam.
maybe it's worth shopping around.
Yeah.
Pam has a question.
The biggest concern, I guess, that most artists would have with watercolor paintings is if you do any of this process, you can't change your painting.
That's right.
It's done.
You're done.
You're right.
You're done. So if you want to be able to look at it a year from now and change it, you
you can't.
Couldn't you do it with acrylic though, on top of that?
I don't think it'd stick very well,
No?
really.
You would have to take it off with a solvent.
Yeah, I think you would. Yeah, you'd have to take it off the solvent.
What's the name of the cold wax?
Doorland. Doorland. Where'd I put it?
It's in her notes.
Okay.
Hold it up.
DORLAND.
Just gonna hold it under the camera.
Okay, thanks.
So you glue it, if you're gonna use cold wax, you glue it though to a board, just like you.
You don't have to. Well, that's what the discussion was just now.
Yeah.
You don't have
It's not
to.
as wet. I think that's why it doesn't match.
And this can go, you don't need to spray first or anything. The wax can go directly on top of your artwork and should not disturb the watercolor.
Yeah, if you're using acrylic, you don't need to varnish it, is that?
Right.
That's right, yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, you wouldn't need to varnish it, you were asking.
Yeah, for the show.
She was asking about acrylic on top of your.
You don't have to varnish it, I mean, really, I don't think.
Are we done?
Thank you.
I feel like we're done. Are we done?